Watch the bone in his fingers. An old man bent close to a fire that has stopped giving him enough light, working a sharpened sliver of bone through the torn shoulder of a child's coat, and the gap isn't shut yet. A seam left open one night was how the cold killed out here. Not in a rush, not with teeth, but quietly, through any gap it could find. Past it, a bare shoulder rises and falls in sleep. The flames have begun to sink. His knuckles ache at every joint. The dark at the cave mouth is leaning closer, and the only thing that matters now is whether the seam closes before the cold finds the skin inside it. Hold that. We come back to it before dawn. Because by the time this old man sat down to sew, 3 other people had already spent everything they had to keep this camp breathing, and not one of them could have done it without the other 3. A runner with nothing left in his legs. A pair of hands that fed the ones who couldn't feed themselves. A keeper who didn't sleep. And him. 4 people. One night. We start at first light. The dawn came gray and cold over open ground, and the young man was already moving through it. He was the fastest the camp had, and on a morning like this, that meant they ate or they didn't. Hunger out here was never a sudden thing. It was a long, quiet subtraction, a body burning more than it could take in, day after day, until the cold stepped in to finish what the empty stomach had started. A kill held that off. So he went to make one, and the way he meant to do it would look, to us, like no hunt at all. He wasn't going to chase the animal down. He couldn't. Anything worth eating could leave him standing in 10 strides. He wasn't trying to be faster than it, he was trying to be the thing that would not stop. He found his animal, started it running, and then he simply followed. Here is the whole secret of it, the one thing his body could do that the animal's could not. A galloping body builds heat with every stride, and a furred animal has only one way to pour that heat back out. Stop, stand, and gape it away through an open mouth. It cannot run flat and cool itself at the same time. He could. His bare skin ran wet, and that sweat carried the furnace out of him into the freezing air while he kept walking, never once forced to choose between moving and cooling. So each time the animal bolted ahead and halted in the shade to breathe, he was already coming. He gave it no shade, no still moment, no chance to dump the heat rising inside it. He read the ground as he went, the depth of the prints, the splayed stride of a panicked stumble, and he closed the distance by the hour. The animal ran out of country and ran out of cool, its legs stiffening, the heat cooking it from within until it staggered and folded, not from any wound, but from a body pushed past what it could carry. And the man who'd walked it into the ground had nothing left in his own legs either. He got the kill home at a stagger, the weight across his shoulders, his hands shaking too hard to do one more thing. He had emptied himself out there. Someone else would have to take it from here. He was waiting at the fire, and had been working it all day without leaving. While the runner poured himself across the open ground, this one held the center, took the kill off the runner's shoulders the moment he staggered and shaking, started carving it down, and made sure the man who'd spent everything ate first, so there would still be a runner tomorrow. And the meat did not go only to the ones who'd earned it out there. It went to the children, who could do nothing yet but eat. It went to the hunter laid against the back wall with a leg torn open weeks ago, and only now, slowly, knitting a man who had brought home nothing since the injury and was fed anyway, every day, without it ever becoming a question. This is the part we get wrong about these people. We picture each of them carrying their own weight or falling behind. But a human child stays helpless for years longer than the young of anything else out there, and a gored hunter heals slowly, and no one, however fast or strong, can feed and guard and hold themselves through all of that alone. So they didn't. The kill was shared, including with the ones who never chased it, and that sharing wasn't tenderness laid over the top of survival. It was the survival. It was why the runner could throw everything into a single hunt and trust there'd be food if he came home empty. It was why the injured man would live to hunt again instead of being left where he fell. It was why an old man could give a whole day to slow indoor work and still eat at dusk. We have pulled it out of the ground since healed bones that should have been the end of someone, people who lived years past a wound only because other hands carried them through it. The light was going now. The kill was butchered, the children fed, the hurt man settled. And everything that came next hung on one thing, lasting until dawn, the warmth. He had not lit this fire. The others sometimes forgot that the flame had been carried into this winter from somewhere far behind them, coaxed from camp to camp, never once let to die, because starting a new one from cold in this season, with numb fingers and damp wood, was the kind of failure that didn't get a second chance. Lighting fire was the easy story. Keeping it was the hard one, and it belonged to him. All through the short day, he'd read the woodpile the way the runner read tracks: how much was dry, how much was green and slow to catch, how many hours of dark still stood between now and morning. Spend too freely early, and the pile was gone by the coldest hour, the one just before dawn when the air bites deepest and the sleeping bodies lie stiffest. Spend too carefully, and the flame sank too low to hold the warmth in, and the chill crept through the camp while Goodwood still sat unburned an arm's length away. He lived on that edge all night. As the others slept, he let the flames drop on purpose, never out, but down to a close-banked bed of coals under a skin of ash, where they would hold their heat slow and patient on almost nothing. That was the craft of it. A tall, roaring fire was a fire eating tomorrow. Coals kept tight and fed, a single stick at a time could carry the whole camp through the dark on a fraction of the wood. So he didn't sleep the way the rest slept. He surfaced through the night again and again, reaching out half awake to lay on one more piece, to nudge the embers together, to feel whether the warmth still reached the small bodies near him. And, on one of those risings, near the deepest part of the night, he saw he was not the only one awake. Across the low light, an old man sat bent over something in his lap, his hands moving. And now we're back where we started. The torn coat, the sinking fire, the bare shoulder. What the old man held was the answer to the death that took the most people out there. Not the fangs, not the hunt gone wrong, but the cold itself, working quietly, winter after winter, slipping in through any gap it could find. A hide thrown over the shoulders kept some of it off. It was never enough. The only real answer anyone had ever found was to turn a dead animal's skin into a second skin that fit not draped over you, but cut to you and sewn shut, so no seam let the warmth bleed away. A hide you only wrapped around yourself was a thing the wind still crawled under. A hide closed at every edge was the one armor that held against the dark. And the whole difference between those two was the sliver of bone in his hands. A needle was not a thing you found. It was a thing you made slowly, from a splinter of long bone rubbed against gritstone until it tapered to a point, then bored at one end, turned and turned with a stone tool until the eye opened without splitting the shaft. That eye was the hardest part. A careless pass cracked it, and a season's grinding was gone. Through it ran sinew lifted from along an animal's back, dried and teased into strands and twisted, until what had bound muscle to bone became thread strong enough to hold a seam through a winter of strain. The hide itself had passed through days of scraping and working before it ever reached his knees, until a stiff, dead skin bent soft as cloth. His eyes were not what they'd been. He held the work close to the failing flame, and his joints complained at every push, and still no one else in the camp could do what he was doing. The years had made their quiet trade with him, taken the running, the hauling, the long days on the trail, and left him this. He set the point against the torn edge, drove it through against the resistance of the hide, and drew the sinew taut. Then again, the gap narrowing a thread at a time. 2 fingers, then 1. He had no second needle. If this one cracked in the cold now, there'd be no making another before light. So he warmed the bone in his palm before each pass and worked with the grain, never against it. Then the point went through the last of it, and he drew the thread tight and worked the end back under so it would hold. The coat was whole. He laid it across the sleeping child without waking him. The bare shoulder vanished under closed hide. And the night, for all its reaching, found nowhere left to get in. He didn't think of it as saving anyone. None of them did. The runner had only run. The one at the fire had only fed people and carved meat. The keeper had only kept a flame from dying. The old man had only closed a seam. But lay the night end to end, and look at what actually held this camp together until dawn, and you stop being able to find the single person who did it. The runner spent everything because he knew he'd be fed whether he succeeded or not. He was fed because the kill was shared. It was shared beside a fire that someone stayed awake all night to keep. And the warmth that fire made was held in by skins that an old man's ruined hands had sewn shut. Pull any one of them out of the night and the whole thing comes apart. That's the part we never quite say out loud about these people. They didn't survive because any one of them was strong. They survived because they had quietly become something larger than themselves, a single body with 4 pairs of hands, each doing the one thing the others couldn't, all of it adding up to a camp that woke. The fire settled to coals. The child slept warm. And the gray light, when it finally came, found every one of them still breathing. If you'd sit at another fire like this one, stay close. There are more nights worth telling. And if you know the kind of person who does the quiet work no one thanks them for, maybe send this their way.